There is a sound the world makes the night before everything changes. It is not a loud sound. It is the opposite of sound. It is the deep, silent breath before the plunge, the held note before the crescendo. It is the pressure in the air before a great storm makes landfall. The weight of the clouds, heavy with rain that has not yet begun to fall. It is the silent hum of a city that holds its collective breath, waiting for the dawn of a historic day. Tonight, millions of people across the globe hold that same breath. Their focus, a single point of light in the coming darkness. A star, gathering all its mass and energy, preparing to go supernova. This quiet is not emptiness. It is a space filled with stored energy, a furnace humming with heat before the molten steel is poured. This is the story of that silence, the story of the furnace before the fire. This is the story of 4 women on the eve of their Armageddon. In the beginning, there was a question. It arrived not as a sound, but as a silence in the otherwise well-oiled machine of popular music. For years, the formula had been understood. The rules followed. But then, a flicker. A new signal appeared on the global stage, a deliberate glitch in the pop music code. When the machine first sparked to life, when the first bit of data coalesced into a silhouette, the world held its breath and asked, "What is this? A story? A strategy? A ghost?" 4 young women were introduced to the world, but they did not arrive alone. They came with their echoes, their æ-aespas, perfect digital beings born from pure data streams, existing on a plane of existence made of cold glass and light, a virtual world called the Flat. They were woven from the DNA of our online lives, our search histories, our shared images, our deepest desires for perfection, all given form and a face that was both familiar and unnervingly pristine. The concept was called ambitious, the future of Kpop. It was called confusing, a gimmick, a cheap publicity stunt designed to build a fire of hype. And the fire did burn. The debut music video shattered records, the numbers climbing faster than anyone could comprehend. The hype was undeniable, a cultural reset that had everyone, whether in praise or in confusion, talking. The comment sections became philosophical battlegrounds. Think pieces were written overnight. Was this the next evolution of art, a bold commentary on our digital lives? Or was it commerce in its most cynical form, an attempt to create an idol that never aged, never tired, and never faltered? But beyond the noise of the debate, a quieter, more profound question emerged. What is it like to live in sync with a perfect reflection? The term itself implies a harmony, a seamless connection, but it is also a demand, a constant silent pressure to align your flawed human self with a flawless digital ideal. To have a twin who does not tire, does not doubt, does not age, thy A became a perfect, silent mirror, reflecting not just their data, but the industry's impossible dream of perfection. These digital ghosts were the literal embodiment of the flawless, ever-present, and ever-perfect persona that idols are so often pressured to maintain, an asset that could perform a choreography with divine precision on the first take, every single time. A face that never showed a flicker of sadness or exhaustion. This is the melancholic beauty at the heart of their story. The human member grows, changes, feels the weight of a difficult day, carries the memory of a mistake, but the digital ghost in the machine remains flawless, a constant, unchanging star in their private cosmos. As one of the 4 once quietly confessed, there is a sadness in watching her digital self stay the same since their debut, while she continues to evolve and change as a human and an artist. It is the quiet tragedy of outgrowing a photograph of yourself. It is like hearing a song you wrote as a child, played back to you on a flawless, endless loop, a constant reminder of a self that no longer exists, a beautiful, lonely echo in the code, a reminder that to be human is to be in constant, gloriously imperfect motion. Before the world knew them as æ-aespa, they were raw materials, each waiting for the furnace, each forged in a different fire, a different silence. The strength they would one day show the world was earned in these quiet, unseen moments. The first, Karina, was already in the light, a face known to the cold glass of social media, scouted for a visual that seemed to precede her. But this early light cast a long and dark shadow. Before her first note was ever sung professionally, she was put on trial by rumor and speculation, a storm of cruel, baseless words that sought to break her before she had even begun. In that crucible, facing a level of public scrutiny few rookies ever endure, she was forced to forge a fortress of grace, a quiet strength built to withstand the heat. The second winter was found in a moment of simple joy, dancing at a hometown festival. The offer came without a name, a whisper of a new life so unbelievable her family feared it was a scam. For the quiet girl from an ordinary life, this was the forging of faith. It required a belief in the unseen, a leap from the familiar world into the vast, uncertain cosmos of the industry, a journey through a long and silent winter of the soul before her spring could finally arrive on the world's largest stage. The third Giselle was a spark of raw, undeniable talent. She faced the legendary Saturday auditions, a gate through which only a handful of artists have ever passed in over 2 decades. With only 11 months to prepare, her forging was one of immense, accelerated pressure. She was the molten steel thrown into ice water, hammered and forced to harden in record time, proving she would not crack under the impossible demand to become ready now. And the fourth, Ningning, was the embodiment of patience. A known voice from a young age in China, she was recruited into the famed SM Rookies program in 2016, and then she waited. For 4 years, she watched seasons change from a single window as other stars were born, the last of her rookies class to finally debut. Hers was not a forging of quick, intense heat, but of a long, slow tempering. The quiet resilience required to keep a single flame alive through an endless and uncertain night, alone in a foreign country. 4 trials, 4 fires, 4 paths, forged at last into the unbreakable whole the world now knows as æ-aespa. When the raw materials were finally forged and brought together, the sound they made was not a gentle harmony. It was a roar. It was the sound of a new world cracking through the old. With next level and savage, æ-aespa unleashed a new kind of music, a sonic declaration that refused to be ignored. It was a sound that was fractured, experimental, and gloriously noisy. It felt alive, chaotic, switching genres mid-verse, dropping beats like architectural demolitions and chanting strange words from a digital dimension called Kwangya. This music broke the established rules of pop structure, and in doing so, it broke onto the world stage. This new sound became a cultural touchstone, a phenomenon that was both celebrated and fiercely debated. It was a lightning storm, and the world was divided. For every listener who saw the genius and danced in its chaotic light, hailing it as the next evolution, there was another who called it incomprehensible, confusing, just noise. They were crowned queens of a concept some refused to understand, pioneers of a sound many weren't ready to hear. Their crown was not made of smooth gold, but of savage fire. It was brilliant and beautiful, but it was also burning. This was the burden of the vanguard. æ-aespa proved that conceptual difficulty was not a barrier to mainstream success, but could be a core component of it, challenging the very idea that pop music must be simple to be popular. They were not asking for permission, they were building their own kingdom from the ground up, whether the world understood the architecture or not. And then came the desert. Coachella 2022, a global stage that acts as a great filter, a place where hype can either be validated or evaporate under the harsh sun. There was no digital veil here, no lore-heavy music videos or complex editing to hide behind. For a group born in the virtual quiet of a pandemic, a group so intrinsically tied to a digital concept, this was the ultimate test of their reality. Could the human heart of the machine beat loud enough for the whole world to hear without the aid of its flawless digital reflection? Standing in the center of that storm, under the weight of 1 million watching eyes, they sang, and their voices were raw, real, and powerful. Fan cams, unforgiving and unedited, captured the truth. They captured the slight instability in a high note, the sharp intake of breath between lines. the sheer, visible effort of projecting their voices across that vast field, the undeniable, beautiful proof of a live performance. These were not the flawless vocals of their A counterparts. This was something far more valuable. It was the sound of human artists claiming their power, the sound of real lungs working and real hearts pounding. They were proving in real time that beneath all the layers of code and concept, their talent was the unshakable foundation. They had worn the crown of fire, and now they were proving to the world that they would not be burned by it. They were the fire itself. Every story evolves, and for æ-aespa, evolution is not a gentle change, but a cataclysm. The world of Kwangya, once their entire universe, has fractured and shattered, expanding into a multiverse of infinite possibilities. And now, the engine that has been quietly building power within them is ready to ignite. This is Armageddon, not the end of the world, but the end of a world. It is a full-scale, decisive clash where they finally meet all versions of themselves, the hero, the villain, the god, the human, to awaken into one ultimate being. After years of a narrative defined by others, their mission statement is now a quiet declaration of independence, echoing through this new era. Only I can define myself. The first signal flare was supernova, a cosmic explosion of sound that defied expectations and became their most successful song to date, achieving a perfect all-kill on the charts. It was more than a hit. It was proof that the world was watching, waiting, and ready for what came next. And now, on the eve of tomorrow, comes dirty work. The aesthetic has been reborn. The pristine digital avatars and polished looks of their debut have given way to something more real, more scarred, more powerful. The visuals are no longer perfect. They are raw, unrefined. Molten metal flows and hardens into imperfect jewelry. Their expressions are not inviting. They are a challenge. The lyrics are not a plea. They are a warning. Sharp teeth bite first. Cold eyes, cold stare. This is the sound of æ-aespa embracing the fight. Dirty work is not just a title, it is a philosophy. It is the embrace of the hard, messy, unglamorous process of becoming. It is the work of intentionally melting down the perfect digital image they were given to forge a new identity from the raw material of their own human experience. It is the work of a blacksmith, not a jeweler. It is the work of defining oneself on one's own terms, with their own hands. And so, we return to the quiet. But this is not the same silence that began our story, the one filled with questions and uncertainty. This quiet is different. It is heavy, resonant, filled with the stored energy of a promise about to be kept. It is the deep, collective breath of millions holding a shared secret. The storm is no longer a distant gathering on the horizon. It is here. The air is electric, the sky is dark, and the rain is about to break. In this final sacred moment of stillness, this story turns away from the artists and speaks directly to you. Eyes, the ones who have been watching the sky all along, patiently waiting for this exact moment. You who became digital archaeologists, learning the strange new language of Kwangya, finding poetry in the glitches of the code. You built universes of theory in the digital darkness, connecting threads that no one else could see, proving that this was never just a concept, but a new mythology waiting to be deciphered. You saw the ghost in the machine, and instead of fear, you felt curiosity. You who became the guardians of the flame. When the fires of criticism burned too hot, when the world called their art noise or confusing, you stood as a shield. You built a fortress of light and logic around the four women at the center of the storm, defending not just their music, but their right to be different, to be difficult, to be revolutionary. You understood that their crown of savage fire was worn for all of you, and most importantly, you understood that your role was not just to watch, but to participate. You are the co-authors of this saga, the in my world, the most precious friends in this vast expanding universe. Because of you, this story was never a monologue delivered from a stage. It has always been a conversation, an alliance. And so tomorrow is not just a music release, it is a shared dawn. The moment where the story æ-aespa tells and the story you live finally become one. The world doesn't know what is coming, but we do. We were there when they were just raw materials waiting for the furnace. We witnessed the long, slow tempering through the lonely nights. We felt the heat of their savage fire and saw them crowned in it. We watched them stand alone in the vast desert, proving their human hearts were the true source of their power. And so, we do not fear the Armageddon. We have been preparing for it all along. We will be there when the sun rises, the story is told, the engine is roaring, the stage is set. Rest now, M-wise. The real work begins tomorrow.